And after what feels like and actually is about half a week since our last episode, what a crazy half week it's been. We have the latest episode of Power Spike. So much has gone down in the world of LoL esports over the last, 72, 96 hours as there's been a trade in the LCK. The favorites all lost in the Legend group. LCS just did kicked off their season. Inspired not starting. It will be Armeo who comes on in. And the little thing called the LEC Roadshow going on as well. So a lot of that and more will be covered on this week's episode of Power Spike Dgon alongside Yamato and Jamada. And let's jump right into said LCS matches with this week's Sack Tap with Yamato. All right, Yamato, what's up? Your boys played Team Liquid and weren't quite able to get it over the line there. Fell short with the new roster of Loki and Tactical. What did you see from your point of view?
We got smacked. We got outplayed. We especially like in terms of map movements, it's like we didn't manage side waves good. We played very desperate. We only had like one line of play and tried to fight on mid. First game we were a little bit too AP heavy, so we got outskilled on a Hex Drinker and a Merc Threads. Team Liquid is a good team. I think that they were definitely building on something. I was surprised by the results in like winter and spring in terms of like how long it took them to actually ramp up, because on paper this roster is insane. And after the result against KC, clearly this team is ramping up. And we are in a stage where we need to play catch up, right? It's like we brought in two guys. Dom became the head coach. Inero bowed out, right? A lot of changes in the staff too. So we're playing catch up on these teams that have been building for the whole year, and we're figuring some stuff out. Definitely, I think in this game we were way worse, and it's good that it happens now. Rather now than later, because plain and simple, Coach JJ ran laps around us. We allowed Quid to do whatever he wanted on side. Morgan won in the Naram Bessa matchup, which is a skill matchup, that is supposed to be Thanatos' edge, and there's nothing more to it really. I did like, some details that I did like. I like that Loki, played aggressive. He kind of swung. I think that he played well in the lane phase, and I think that he, played fearlessly, which I think is good. The feedback after the fact as well, everyone kind of, it was easy to reach the right conclusions, which I think is also a very, very big sign. In the end, a best of three like this, it will just be noise, in the end. It's like, it just depends on what we do of it. But plain and simple, Team Liquid got hands, we got smoked, we got cooked. Okay? That's not something I can, defend or look around. We can only look ahead. So fire best shots. Come at me, boys.
Yeah, Jamada, you had the closer look at it with your co-stream. What did you make of the match?
To be honest, I kind of weighed it up quite similarly to Yamato in the sense of, at the end of the day, the C9 team has effectively just kind of half rebuilt itself in the middle of the year. So I wasn't expecting a win, especially because the questions I had for this series are actually more towards TL of like, okay, typically teams that come off internationals, they either start the it's the MSI or whatever it is, like the drunk MSI run, or post MSI run. But what I wanted to see was whether or not they'd actually maintain some of those gains from MSI, because it was clear their improvement in that stretch of 5 days. Their level of play from there to domestically in spring, and they brought it, and that was really what I was excited for in that TL series and in the C9 series. Um, I think Core JJ and Jose Diodo as a duo right now are phenomenal. Um, and overall, their macro, I think they probably had the best or most consistent macro out of any team and like map reads of any team this weekend. I think only maybe Lion, but even then, the Lion series, I won't go too indefinite, but I summed it up. It was like watching children in a class where they don't have their regular teacher and it's a substitute teacher. That's the kind of gameplay they were putting on the Rift versus FlyQuest because Inspired was out. And you could see it. Like they were having a lot more fun than normal. They were being a lot more aggressive. But yeah, TL. I think just consistency was my main thing. Their team fighting was fantastic. It felt consistent, as in they built on what happened at MSI and they brought it back domestically. I think as far as the C9 side is concerned, um, I think right away you could see in the team fights like the difference in having Loki and Tactical in as opposed to Sven and APA. And obviously, I know the idea of the 7-man roster for the time being is eventually land on a 5. And for me, that was very good first impressions in terms of okay, cool. The boys are getting smacked around on the map as far as macro is concerned, but still mechanically they were making things close, even though the game state was not close in a lot of these circumstances. And I think that's something that's a positive sign and very commendable. And so, as much as I would like to be critical of C9 this week, I think contextually it's a bit unfair to be. Like, I would wait until, basically really playoffs. Like, this is now a regular season that's gone from, okay, we want to come in and dominate. Obviously, every team wants to do that, but to we need to rebuild a little bit, right? We need to understand how we want to be as a team. We're in a very, very specific meta right now as well, with the majors in bot. Though we didn't get that out of game one. And yeah, just kind of do a little bit of soft soul searching and hopefully find an identity very quickly that makes sense for the C9 team.
I guess for me, it's leaving lock open. Kind of, it's the new champion buff here for, Riot's always done this when the new champion comes out. It's always strong. Was that something that you guys planned or expected? And I feel like going forward, we're starting to see around the world, not a lot of people getting to play it.
Yeah, I think when it comes to this champion, the tricky thing to navigate, right, when you pick it is that you pick it early, and there's a very specific dimension this champion heads into that you can stylistically look to counter. I think the matchups for Locke can be difficult. Not Gilius, Galio and Akali.
Gilius? God Gilius, shout out.
Wow.
Galio.
Gilius and Galio are both big guys, man. Go on.
Galio and Akali are like good stylistic counters. And you can set up compositions that are hard for Locke to counter, especially with how flexible people are around bot lane. But obviously, if the champion gets ahead, then the damage numbers are quite ridiculous. It is OP, but there is a sense of exposure that you lend yourself to by picking it so early. We got to play Akali, and if you look at it deeper, right, it's like Quid is a strong, big Akali player. We gain a ban like that. We also see what they first pick, means that we get to plan our 1-2 better. So it's just a trade-off. Obviously, it didn't work out here, but an additional layer of this champion that is so tricky is that you don't get to play it a lot in solo queue. You don't get to play it in scrims. So it's a mixed bag of practice, So it's like we've seen games where it's not picked at all. We've seen games where teams ban it on both sides because they just don't have any prep for it. And we've seen players like Knight pick it and suck donkey balls. So it's definitely like a risk, a risk. But a calculated one. And in hindsight, it's easy to say, we shouldn't have done that. But I think honestly, TL's level was so much higher than us on that day that I think lock or no lock, I think we would have been smoked either way. Definitely.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Again, that deeper insight, especially when it comes to draft and draft thought behind it with a new champion like this here. Obviously, deeper questions and deeper strategy. We'll leave that for the Rift, but I think with Locke specifically felt very, we're all learning. And that was actually something that Taeyun said in his post-game interview yesterday for B&K Fear X. The meta feels open, and right now people all have many different views and priorities, and so kind of just seeing what that was here with a new champion in it as well. They too got to play the Locke, and he went crazy on it. It was interesting to see here how things shook up. All right, so we're off and going now with our latest episode of Power Spike. Next up, we're going to insert something in here just because it's brand spanking new news that happened during the LCK broadcast. Aiming for KT Rolster has been traded away to Kiwoom DRX for the bench AD carry in Jiwoo. And we know that Jiwoo's been the potential player for such a long time and lost his spot here to Lazy Feel on a team that wasn't that good. But of course, even that move could have been politically motivated or, like financially motivated, as Kiwoom DRX had their homestand in Vietnam. We had the Vietnamese AD carry playing, again, victims of circumstance, and now moves to KT. But KT had the upset victory over T1, which we'll cover later on, with Fenrir, who looked good in Kespa Cup. But we know that with the aiming stuff, aiming was benched earlier this week and unfollowed all the guys on Instagram, which the LCK detectives found out. The LCK fan detectives found out. And then he gets moved on over. So all this going on, and then the KT Rolster puts out a statement saying, during review, things were said. It was difficult for things to progress forward in a professional manner, and so they're going with Fenrir. Aiming then responds today with his statement. Where is it? Here it is, where he says, this statement isn't to criticize, but to clarify his honest feelings about the situation. During feedback, emotional remarks came on up. Personal insults were used at him, and so he continued to exchange it with remarks that were hurtful with each other. In this process, we didn't control our emotions and use words that crossed the line. And he wishes that they would have done something in a more mature manner. After chatting with the coach, the players expressed that it would be too hard to continue to play together, and this situation became difficult to resolve. And he had many offers going into this year, but he chose KT due to personal affection to the org and the great memories he had. So this ending feels especially sad and bitter, but he has gratitude to teammates, staff, and supportive fans. And he will try his best to continue to mature as a player. So we got to read the aiming side of things because the KT side of things came out yesterday, plus the big victory without him. Despite all the personal things about aiming, I think this has been, from gameplay, one of his best years, and he has been one of the best players on KT. And for this ending to happen just feels like a shock and also just craziness. Also, again, 80 carries getting traded in the middle of the year. This happened with Taeyun and Diablo earlier. What are your angles here? Let's start with you, Jamada, since Yamada, we went with you for SACTAP.
I don't like the guy.
Same.
So I'm just gonna keep it simple. If he's not, if he's not in the top group anymore, good. Because realistically, if he's going down to DRX, which obviously is locked now, then do we think that he's magically gonna turn this team into competing team to do something special in the LCK? No. Right? Like that's the fact of the matter. So as far as I'm concerned, I think KT will probably be better off without him in this weird way. And they've already demonstrated that they can perform without him. They beat T1 yesterday. What else is there to say, really? Like, I think this team will function just fine without him. They'll have, obviously now Jiwoo in, and they have a very lovely backup in Fenrir. And this, as a meta right now, is not inherently one that fully benefits AD carries being incredibly good right clickers anyway. Everything kind of lines up, like if this was 2023 MSI meta, then sure, maybe there's questions to ask if Eamon is in this kind of form, But it's not MSI 2023 meta. It's not any of the front to back metas we've had since then. It's, hey man, what's your willingness to play Silas bot lane? What's your willingness to play Victor and Ziggs and da-da-da-da? Which, we know aiming can do appropriately well from time to time, but it's not as if he's really been showing it off. Like, actually, has Aiming played has he played a mage since? I don't think he because leading up to MSI, we had some of them creeping. I don't even know if he has. So you know what? Fuck it. He can go. Oh no. He showed Mel. That's it though, innit? Like so. Yeah, I'm not all fussed. I think this is a move where I'm happy for Jiwoo because he's obviously been a player that a lot of LCK heads have loved for a very long time. And I think KT will be better off in the long run. I think that if it gives an opportunity for BDD to receive more resources, then fantastic. If it means that Jiwoo gets a platform to shine, then incredible. Yeah, I have nothing to really say as far as the personal behaviors are concerned. I don't know. We had the Instagram post like you were referencing, where it's like, things got a little bit personal. I wonder what got said in those back and forths. Yeah, for me, it's a good riddance angle. I'm not fussed at all. If he's in the lower group, so be it.
All right, Yamato.
Honestly, I think aiming as a player has always been just for the longest time like the definition of a choker. I think that when it comes to whether it was when the last time it was on KT and their playoff run when they got swept by T1 and they picked T1 and all that shit, they didn't get swept, but they lost twice, right? After picking them when T1 had a horror season. I remember many times where aiming was just a massive disappointment. D plus in his D plus run too. After the regular season, there was basically his meta with Ezreal, Zeri, and Kaiser. He fell flat as well when it came to the playoffs. They managed to somehow qualify to the World Championship, but then he was insanely quiet at that World Championship after a regular split of being one of the probably the strongest performer. And I think that at this point, whatever he offers in the regular season, I think is just not true. Because when I think about KT and the final battle they're going to face, they're going to fight for the fourth slot, and they are going to play a best of 5 against either D plus or T1. That's how it's going to be like lined up, almost certain. Like I'm 99% sure that's how it's going to play out, right? With Genji, HLE at the top and T1 somewhere in between. Maybe the T1 needs to do like a low bracket run or something, because obviously the score carries over from the previous rounds, so it's hard to play catch up. And in that moment, I don't think KT wants aiming on the side. When you play a best of 5 for your life, you don't want aiming on your side. And I think having Fenrir as a backup, I think that he played pretty damn well for his opening game. I think he played bold on the Ezreal. He had like some moments. He died in the Hansama spot one time. Happens. He got pushed by Violed, but that's okay. I think Fenrir, I'm rooting for this guy. And on my side, it's like I think that this thing about aiming has always like plagued him. His history is also awful. Now he came into this argument, and I just hope that KIX, I like Lazy Few, so I hope this doesn't like derail this guy's career just for a move that is going to maybe give them some short-term gain in terms of winning games, but potentially derail Lazy Few's development. So I hope it doesn't come down to that, because I think that would be the only sadness that could come out of this in my mind. So good riddance. Peace out. Don't want you. Didn't want you on D plus. Didn't want you on KT. See you later. Like there are some players I like in the LCK. Like my love for Showmaker was defeated by my hatred for aiming and barrel, and the fact that they were on the team and ruining it. And now I'm rediscovering my love, and I'm so happy that either aiming and barrel are not on the team with Showmaker, and they are on the rise. So God bless. Everything is healing. The world is healing. Yes.
They have been great, and we'll talk about their upset victory here in just a bit. But yeah, the aiming saga with a new turn, and now KT trying to salvaged what was an amazing start to the season. Remember, this squad was 8-0. 8-0 in LCK. Not LCK Cup, LCK. And that is part of the reason why they are in the position where they're at. They've been able to pull off some big victories, like their win over T1. And in doing so, you're like, okay, they have the firepower to do it. Aiming, performing very well in it. And now they're making the gamble that whether it was because of aiming or it wasn't because of aiming, we're moving forward in a different direction. And yeah, kind of a big move here. I think the other thing is Jiwoo starting? Like we like experience in the LCK, but Fenrir had the opportunity to step up and play well. So I wonder if they're just like, yeah, experience always wins, put him in, and we have Fenrir as a backup, or do we go with the guy who's been playing? Because Jiwoo's been down in academy, hasn't really had that LCK experience, and has had a lot of downturn. So maybe you're worried about his mentality. Maybe he's a little glass cannon-y. Who knows? But we'll see here in the future. Let us know what you think about this move with Jiwoo and aiming and KT and Kiwoom DRX, and if this helps Kiwoom DRX as well. Like, they're trying to make a push to save their season as well. Who knows? Maybe in the playoffs, somehow, in that like first round matchup, it's KT versus Kiwoom DRX who climb their way out of the Rise group. That would be a great storyline, but time will tell. Remember, in LCK, the bottom two teams, unlike last year, it was only the last place team. This year, because it's a shortened year because of the Asia Games, the bottom two teams are both eliminated. And so play-ins, instead of it being 6 teams, is now just 4 teams. So definitely more pressure to stay out of that 9th place spot in the Rise group. All right. Well, the reason why KT feel comfortable making this move was because they had a massive victory over T1, not a 2-0, or not a 2-1, but a 2-0 here. And that leads us to this week's Fraud Alert. It's time to sound the bells. It's T1 time here in Fraud Alert. All right, Yamato, give it to me straight. Is T1 in trouble? I feel like we always get ready to push the button, the trouble button, as they start to falter in this pre-Worlds time, but you got to do it. The play on the Rift is dictating it, and this time it does feel like they're starting to run out of steam based on how many tournaments and how much they've been doing over the last year.
Let me spin this. This.
Spin away.
T1 fraud scale 0.
Okay.
Let me spit.
All right, keep going, doctor.
Sports Soul released an article where they state that the players are enduring so much obligations because apparently, T1 is signed to an agency for exclusivity, and that agency is pushing deal after deal after deal at a smaller amount. This is what this article alleges, right? Sports Soul, credible source. All I'm saying, I'm quoting them here, all right? Don't sue me. 16 major sponsors. All falls on the 5 players. And why do I bring this up? Because let me tell you, last year, apparently, T1 had 102 days of media obligations, sponsorship obligations that were not in tune with, of course, the competitive calendar. And let me tell you, as an experienced competitor, a team at T1's level that play all the events, right? They maybe have 60 days off the entire year. If we don't count scrim days and competition, you have 60 days off. That means like 1 every second week, and then you have maybe a week there, and then it adds up 60, and I'm being very conservative with this number. And you add on top of that 102 days of obligation. Something Kerry also mentioned, they started scrimming late. Why is that? They gotta do promo. They gotta do promo. They gotta do promo. Last year, what did they do? Won the World Championship, Red Bull League of its own, fly over to Saudi Arabia, shoot commercial with Red Sea Global, then do fan meets all over the world because they are superstars.
Vietnam. Yep.
And honestly, these guys are just burnt out. They are practicing less. They are burnt out. And I think it's visible. That's why, to really, really cement the story, why does T1 do well at Worlds always? Because somehow this is the calmest time of the year for them. This is the calmest time of the year for them. And when everyone else is catching up to the stress they endure on a daily basis, they're like, this is Tuesday, motherfuckers. So, to round it off, imagine a world where ZOFGK, the OG roster, was on an organization that didn't push them super hard. Maybe they would just win every tournament. maybe they just golden road. If they could just focus on the damn game. Maybe this roster would do the same. Maybe. Obviously, from gameplay side, it looks horrific. It's like we see. I don't know what the level is at right now. Owner is not himself. Like Pays is like struggling. He got dropped into Ela Hell. The gameplay side we can discuss, and we've said it a million times already, right? But honestly, I can't call them frauds because I think that they are trying to thrive under very, very, very tough conditions. They are doing so much. And as a person that is doing too much right now, I have a lot of empathy for that. I have a lot of empathy for that. It really, really, there's a fatigue that really cuts into the bone. You yourself, Dgon, you flew here and then you had here, you've been busy nonstop. It like kind of cuts into your bone. Imagine year round. And at the same time having that pressure of competition that is LCK and also the pressure of the T1 fans. I don't envy that. So to me, they're not frauds. That's my TED Talk. Thank you, guys.
I think it's an angle. I think invoking ZOFGK winning everything if they weren't pushed that hard, isn't that partially like the reason why they're made in the fire? It's just another Tuesday. If they weren't pushed as hard, wouldn't they not be able to cope with the stress? Isn't that an angle?
First split together. Borderline undefeated. Won the split. And then came the fame. And then came the money. And then came the greed.
In between, more championships.
Yes.
And then don't forget all the winning that happened.
The World Championships, that's the calm time, bro. That's their vacation. Every year, Worlds is their vacation. I'm telling you, that's the vacation. Like, damn, we get to go to New York and eat bolognese. Come on now. Let's just play some league. Oh, we don't get to scrim much? Bro, that's our life. Chovy doesn't get to scrim. When he's scrimming the whole year round, bro, he's uncomfortable, bro. He's used to scrimming and solo queuing, keeping in shape. Bro, this is us not scrimming, our PCs lagging, whatever. Bro, we deal with this. This is a Tuesday, baby. No problem. We figure it out. So 0.
All right. 0. Jamada, go for it.
Honestly, half a point to Tom. Honestly, his drafting. Come on, man. You can do better than this.
You know what?
Go ahead.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's one thing I kind of wanted to talk about still. Is the drafting and just kind of the direction that they seem to go in at times. They just feel like they don't have a clear identity or direction of like who they want to be. Like that's kind of, I don't know if I was looking too much into, the first game specifically. But that's really what it felt like to me, was just that, right? They had an angle where, and I think we can all agree, Pays is probably just the best AD carry player in the world right now. At least for me, right? I think anytime that they have an angle where it's safe as well to put Pays in traditional AD carry matchups, they should do it. And they had an opportunity to do it in game 1 versus KT, and they didn't. They could have gone a plethora of different things, I think. Milio Lucian was an angle. I think It could have been like a hard but like tenable Zaya game. And so that's where I actually kind of wonder where T1 are lost. Because, yeah, sure, they have a lot of shit, right? Yes, their schedule is more packed than any other team on the planet. And you can, I think it's definitely a factor that you can consider when it comes to burnout. But even then, I would still expect this team to pull the results that they should be pulling. It's the bigger games where I would expect like a little bit more resistance. Where it's like, we're struggling versus versus HLE and versus Genji because we're burnt out. We don't lose to KT 2-0. We don't like not pick up a game in a series where we should have picked up at least one game, right? And that's really where my concern is. And I go back to a lot of the issues that I saw at MSI beyond just the draft, where it's like I feel like Carrier and Owner, despite like the legendary weight that both of these two players have, as just in name value, they're not playing off of each other the same way that the other best support junglers in the world do. And they were doing this thing, and they still kind of do it now, where, and it swings in roundabouts. It goes both ways. They feign that they're next to each other on the map sometimes. And that has its pros and it has its cons, right? It depends on how confident the other team is in just going, well, this guy has to be trolling. There's no way Carrier's here if Owner's here, etc. But it's not what any other team are doing in the world, and they're not really pushing leads or punishing particularly hard off it. And now, and you saw it in this game one especially, when they look for play, oh no, it was game two. When they look for plays, like the start of the game two was fantastic. Like they put Cuz in a hole. But it feels like this T1 doesn't know where the line is all of the time in just going, okay, that's enough. Like we don't need to do more. Like we've already won. We don't need to go further. You'll hear a lot of coaches in the space often go or talk about the phrase like take the finger, not the hand, or take the hand, not the arm. And it feels like T1 don't don't abide by this saying at all at the moment. They're incredibly undisciplined. And weirdly, obviously, there's the T1 narrative, the T1 circus narrative. It is still something, at least in the early game, I would expect T1 to be doing decently well, and they're not. So in terms of this series, the reason why I'm actually going to rate it moderately high is they've now had pretty much the same issues since before MSI. This is we're running on almost 2 months of same identifiable issues with no clear progress of fixing. So for me, it's like a 7.5. Like I would just expect more. I would just expect more from T1 in terms of actually problem solving their issues. Whether it's identity, like I think they should just forego the mage meta. Anytime that a team drafts a traditional AD carry on the other side, they should just go 1-for-1. They should just go blow for blow AD carry. Never, ever, ever, ever do they need to play mages. And I think that game one where they put Pays on Victor, where he actually like popped off. He was probably their best performer in that game. That whole game I'm thinking, well, what if he was on a hyper carry? Like, how much freedom would he have had if he was on like a Kai'Sa game? Or again, like a Xayah game. So I think T1 really need to just identify who they want to give their resources to, but how they want to do it via their draft plans. It doesn't feel like a lot of thought is going into that coherently at the moment.
No, I agree. And I mean, this feels like the gambler's fallacy, right? When it's like, okay, if you do a 50-50, well, the next time you do 50-50, it's 50% of 50% is 25%. And that I feel like that's what we got with both of your takes, right? It's like, well, we know it's T1. Here's all the reasons why. And then Jamada is like, I mean, with my eyes, this looks like the same issues that we've been seeing. Plus Tom in there, Yamato, as part of the problem and part of the drafting, part of the strategy that they're going with here. Go ahead.
Something to just throw in as well. I do think that the glass armor that gave T1 an aura, that playing against them was an event, and obviously still is, but the psychology of going into a match against T1. That this is a team that can just kick it into gear and become very dangerous. So you go into the game almost trusting them more than you trust yourself. Where they make decisions and you're like, oh shit, what are they seeing that I'm not seeing? Rather than be like, you know what? That's a crock of shit. Let me shoot from the hip. And I do think the T1's losses now add up in a way where they are losing some of that aura, so to speak. I don't want to talk in Zuma language, but there's no other way better to put it, you know?
It's credibility. It's the ability to kind of just go, all right, cool, but it's T1. Like, they've done this bad thing. Okay, no problem. I know that T1 will bounce back and be better at the next attempt. And so far, this year, there have been next attempt, no problem. Nah, this is just the one-off, no problem. Oh, nah, you know what? It's okay. And now we're at a point where I think finally we actually have to question them on these things a little bit more closely, even if, it might feel unfair because of XYZ factors about them, being the busiest team in the world, or their proven track record of kicking it into gear when
World
Worlds
Championship
taps in.
Yep. They've done it now with multiple different rosters, right? So like, there's a lot of that built in already. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like this does happen almost every year. And every year I feel like I say the same thing. This feels different. Feels different, Jamada. I don't know. Worlds in America without T1? I don't know. Feels maybe. It's starting to creep in a little bit.
Crept in like like I heard like a sliver of Trump accent there. He said, "America, a world championship without T1."
Not so good. Not so good.
We're gonna be having some meetings like with Infantino, but with like,
oh boy,
LCK commissioner. We need to get T1 to Worlds.
We
can't have a Worlds without T1.
A fifth special spot. I met with head of LOL Esports, Chris Greeley. Good guy, pretty good guy. All right. Better stop before Greeley gets mad. I'm sorry, Greeley. Don't get mad at me. All right. Let's check out what we have next here, as we want to know what you guys think about T1's shortcomings here after an MSI where they beat the crap out of the guys in plans and then fell short. An EWC where they lost to KC in a kind of circusy way, fell short of expectations, and now drop this game to KT, who, KT has upset wins every now and then, but I feel like a really good indictment will be tomorrow, as T1 are playing away as of this recording tomorrow. They're playing away at the Gen G home stand, another LCK roadshow. I find this one interesting because this is a bigger fan base. I believe the last homestand they played at away was KT, and that was mostly a KT crowd with actually it was about half and half. It was about half KT, half T1. Here against Gen G, bigger fan base. Will the Tiger Nation show up and make it a hostile crowd for T1? I guess they basically played in a hostile crowd at EWC in France against KC and ultimately lost that one. Let us know in the comments what you think about the fraudulency scale here of T1. All right, before we continue, it's time to remind you about our friends over at Huel. Now, guys, I like going to conventions. I love seeing the energy and feeling the energy at conventions. There was one that I used to go to in Washington, D.C. It was called the Music and Games Festival. Big place where they had retro games and LANs and a bunch of cosplay and a lot of music about video games. One of my favorite conventions to go to the point where I was working it. And one of the parts about working is you get free meals. And I'm like, all right, great. can't wait to eat now that I've checked in a bunch of people here for the convention. And we went upstairs to go eat, and bless their heart, they're trying to cook for thousands of staff members, but like sometimes it was like one piece of bread, here's a piece of one piece of meat, and then some beans on top, and that was the meal. And it
That's
was
top British cuisine right there.
a little sad. It was a little sad. Is that British? British cuisine. Little sad there. And
Cheers,
if
guys.
only at that time, if only at that time I had Huel, then maybe my eating would have not only tasted better, but also been a more complete meal, which is what Huel brings you. Huel is your complete meal that you can have on the go, real easy. The powder that goes into your drink, 2 scoops is that complete meal. It gives you everything you need with 40 grams of powder, having 35 grams of RTD protein, 27 vitamins and minerals with 7 grams of fiber, under $5. Chocolate, so good that you wouldn't even imagine that it was a healthy meal for you, the complete meal. As the Black Edition powder, 40 grams of protein mixes with water or milk in about 30 seconds, 27 essential vitamins and minerals with no artificial sweeteners, no colors or flavors added. And the RTD bottle is the grab and go version with 35 grams of protein, 7 grams of fiber, under $5 a meal. Yamato, what do you make of it?
Oh, it's delicious. I think that's what's so surprising, like you read the list of like all the good stuff that is in it, and then it's delicious. You just expect it to be, like just the craziest jambalaya ever, with all the ingredients from the fridge ever. But it turns out to be just top notch somehow, like jambalaya is too. So shout out to Huel. It's just delicious.
Yeah, keeps you full. Keeps you full. Huel keeps you full with the protein fiber inside of it as well. So make sure to check it on out, that Black Edition, brand new. So we have a limited time offer for our listeners, making healthy eating simple. Get Huel today with our offer of 15% off online with the code LFN at Huel.com/LFN. That's HUEL.com/LFN for new customers only. Thank you to Huel for partnering and supporting Last Free Nation. All right. So let's move on here to what we have next. A little high key, low key, no key, because over in the LEC, just like in EWC, it was in France, LEC kicked off their season with the LEC Roadshow in France as well. So with both of y'all, taking a peek, taking a gander on how LEC went, and now our brand new SK co-streamer in Yamato, they're going to rank some of the things that they felt hit the mark, didn't hit the mark with the Roadshow, including gameplay, production, all the stuff. High key, low key, no key. It's week 1 of the LEC summer. It's the LEC Roadshow. All right, Yamato. Let's start with you. You can give us all 3, your high key, your low key, and your no key for week 1 of the LEC.
Let's start with high key. High key. MCoy will not be in the conversation of winning a split.
Woo!
At all. Like, no matter what happens. I think the era of the top 3 is gone completely. MCoy being close to beat G2 or whatever, them looking good in the regular season, taking the best of 3 here and there at some roadshow. I think it's all just noise. At this point, leopards are going to eat my face because, my lord, if I think that MCoy is going to suddenly become good and have a chance because they show something in a regular season game, at that point, as I said, I'm going to be surprised that leopards eat my face while I'm sleeping with them, because MCoy has done the same pattern time and time again. I can't believe that the journey of MCoy for the last 2 years with this core, even 3 years, what they're most known for, notoriously, is for 15 minutes, they're like insanely good, the first 15 minutes of the game, competitive, they're up there with everybody. Sometimes, I obviously Midwin and Super, need to have like very specific champs that they excel on. They don't have the biggest champion pools, but they get into games. They qualify into games well. And then for some goddamn reason, no matter what the game state is, they just manage to do some of the dumbest shit ever. And that has just been true ever since Frescawi era. With the addition of Georgia Pugh now, it has continued. The amount of throws, like you can make, you know, the greatest hits, you know, that's the type of shit you want to do at the end of someone's career. You do a greatest hits album, you know. I have the greatest hits album of ABBA that came out like 2016, you know, that is after the career. You look at the greatest hits. Like we are 3 years into this MCOY variant, and the greatest hits of how many games they threw with 10K gold leads, with souls, even at EWC, damn it. They threw against Gigabyte Marines. I know they're called GAM, but Gigabyte Marines kind of goes hard. They threw the soul. They had soul. They had soul. And I think high key, you know, MCOY is not in the conversation. The only conversation they're in is if somehow they're gonna falter to some of the other teams that might have some upside to them to go above them.
Can I hop in quickly?
Let's do 1-1-1. Do your high key after you hop in.
All right. Yeah. I just wanted to ask then, if you don't think they're top 3, who do you think slides in as the third team? Like, I don't want to tangent the conversation too far away from Hikey Loki.
Sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. Maybe I wasn't clear. It's just that the conversation about the 3 doesn't exist. There's only 2.
Okay, you think there's only 2 for like
it's kind of like
championship talk.
You know, motherfuck the big 3. It's just you and me, Casey. You know,
okay.
Is what G2 would say.
Okay.
You know, it's like Koi is out. You know, they're probably third best still, but it's like Casey G2 here, MCOY is here. You know, they are sleeping with the fishes. You know, like that's what I meant. You know.
All right. Yeah. Well, if we're gonna do 1-to-1, slight detour away from gameplay, I'm just gonna hike you the French crowd. Kind of bouncing off that point from last week when we was talking about KC versus DK. I thought they were incredible again. They were absolutely fantastic. Obviously, especially when KC were playing. But it's just a peek into, you know, what fandom, like in some weird ways, maybe could have looked like an alternative universe for more teams than just, you know, 2 or 3 across basically the entire ecosystem. Yeah, Paris crowds kind of just undefeated, or French crowds kind of just undefeated. And I think when we have another road show that happens in Spain, the MCOY lot can't really do it like those guys. They are kind of one of one. And yeah, it's also kind of just a nod to, I hope we somehow end up with more in-person support like that when we have these events for other teams. Though I know the likelihood is low. But yeah, I think it was just one of those extra things where it kind of lent to KC ending up 3-0ing the weekend. And also, special honorable mention to Broken Blade's walkout versus KC, because it was fucking hilarious with that in mind. And more players, if this happens to reach players somewhere, if you're playing versus KC in France and that's the kind of atmosphere you're walking into, please just fuck with them. Like, just do bullshit like that. I promise you, it goes significantly further for yourself than you think it doesn't. So French crowd's my high key.
All right, go with your low key here. What did you come away with a little inkling of something here?
My low key is Fiesta. Probably a really hot take because that brother got dicked down. But I think it's very important to remember, guys, he's playing a road show. His debut to a new team, he is playing in a road show in probably the most hostile environment you could potentially play in LEC history. And he's playing versus the 3 best mid laners in the league, back to back to back. That's a difficult run of games to have to deal with, you know. Like, whether you like it or not, sure, did he look moderately abysmal for more of that weekend than he didn't? Yeah. But I think he's there to do a job, and his job is to fend off the rest of the pack and try to build up towards the end of the summer to be able to just neutralize these other top mid laners from KC, G2, and MCOY. So I don't feel like it was over the top egregious. And to be frank, I feel like Vitality kind of left him out to dry a little bit in some of these games, as far as like the angles they allowed their opponents one by one to get. Obviously, Fiesta still got like solo killed a handful of times. I'm not trying to defend him on those fronts, right? But in terms of what I think he'll end up being for the team, he just needs to be like consistent in existing in his matchups. Like whatever the condition for his matchup is to be air quote successful, that's all he really needs to be for this team. So I think that the heat that he was getting, I felt kind of bad for him over the weekend, because again, I think people weren't really factoring in like, yo man, he's got to play versus the Western GOAT, right? Then he's also got to play versus arguably the best performing mid laner right now in Yahoo. And then he also has to play versus this year's best laning mid laner in Jojo. Like it's a hard run of games, man. It's a hard run of games. So I think, you know, when it comes to dealing with basically the rest of the pack, he's probably going to be fine. So Fiesta was my Loki, and he was a big part of one of the bounce backs versus MKOI. I think it was the Syndra game. Oh no, sorry, the Hui game, I think, where he really just kind of ran the whole game because MKOI tried to run him down early, and some of the skirmishes just end up going his way. He got kills, and then he used that gold really efficiently. So, yeah, I think Fiesta's my Loki for the weekend, because there was a lot of questions about Vitality, coaching staff, management decisions, this, that, the other. So yeah, there's my Loki.
That's crazy. I just need to read this for you. Let me just hop in there real quick before we get Yamato's take. On Fiesta's signing, Pat said it had to be someone who didn't cost a lot of money. If someone asks, hey, why did you sign Pays? Or hey, why did you sign Doran? Or hey, why did you sign Gumayushi? The first thing you say isn't about how expensive or inexpensive they are. Just want to throw that one out there. Not that I have any keys, but I am going to say that my lack of keys is because Fiesta is a no key. Go ahead, Yamato.
My low key to follow up is that I think that we can start, maybe it's a low key, keep in mind, but there are signs that are concerning about G2. So G2 just lost against KC. Obviously, KC, home crowd advantage, all that jazz. But if we put together the whole picture that we have of the information of Perks joining an environment that was very unhappy and toxic and just and that it got to the point where, regardless if you disagree with the decision or not, people in G2 and the players and whoever is in charge, right? Labrov said he was caught off guard by the decision, right? So the players probably don't have an input. But Roma and all these homies, right? Rodrigo and so forth, these guys have worked with Dylan Falco for such a long time. They felt the need that it was so bad that they made such a radical change. And we mixed that up with, honestly, visceral camera reactions. Usually I wouldn't read too much into it, but the way our boy Scumont reacts is crazy. And this is something I've noticed the entire year. Like he is tilting. Like he is tilting. And I don't know how much it affects the gameplay. I don't know how much it affects the team. But with all the pieces we have together, it begins, you know, I am beginning to ask the question, will this G2, will it last? You know? Now, like, I'm just thinking long term. Still, from the position I'm in, I would still say that they are the favorite to win the split. I'm just thinking long term. Was Perks hired and put in to just mix things up and trying to prevent a crash? Because even the way he's talking in interviews is kind of like, he's like, yo, G2 threw me in this shit. I didn't know how bad it was. I thought I'd be chilling. You know, that's what he said, you know? And if we think about how that's going to lead into the World Championship, how that's going to play out in the future, I am worried that this is a ticking time bomb. You know, maybe this is a roster that is, one that they already see now that these 5 players cannot work together coming into next year, for example. Maybe it is something of that caliber, right? And sometimes, no matter how good you are, sometimes that can be a blocker. And I think that poses a very interesting challenge to G2 because they are addressing that challenge with adding risk, and maybe it works out, and maybe they find higher highs than before. But I'm just raising the alarm bells that there's a world where this version of G2 actually collapses. And I'm not putting that sole blame on Perks. That has very little to do with it, because it's just the fact that they felt the need to mix things up, and that Perks himself said that the environment was so damn toxic. You felt the need to, change things up completely. I think that's very telling. So we'll see how that lands. And I think there's a world where through that, maybe KC is going to be the better team at the end of the split. And maybe in a world where G2 have done so well in beating international competition, beating the Korean teams, right? And beating top esports. Maybe in a world where they've done so well, maybe they're heading towards their worst Worlds run in contrast to that. So it's a fun thing to monitor,
I think this is a big low-key kind of take. And
it's a low-key, keep in mind. My favorite. I still think, I believe in the G2 org, I believe in the structure, but there's something in the air, There's something in the air.
The Scuman reaction cams. All right. Jamada,
Yeah.
do you have a take here on this, or
Yeah,
I want to.
I kind of want to buy in. Not only do I believe this. I think it's important to kind of remember over the last 5-6 years, what's the tag on how long a G2 roster lasts as a 5. It's kind of capped out at 2 years, give or take, right? Like 2 years, sometimes 3. I think BB still hasn't re-signed, right? I want to say, unless that contract, I missed that signing. And obviously Hans was extended. I think crazily it was like till 29 or something really silly like that. And so the only people, as far as I know, that are contracted beyond this year, and obviously contracts can be bought out, this, that, the other, but in terms of like the likely changes, right, moving forward, BB and Lebrov, those are the guys. But like Lebrov, I think, has played to earn himself an extension.
Yes,
I'll be very surprised. I'll be very, very, very surprised if they move on from Lebrov. But I think we're at a point where even if, I guess BB is kind of the focus point of what I'm talking about now. This team attains results. There's a chance that they just change for the sake of change, right? I feel like this was kind of a fair portion of the feeling when we changed from Yike and Mickey to this jungle sport that we have now. Whereas, like, I think a lot of the stance from most people was changing both is crazy, but changing one was expected. And it was pretty split, somewhat down the middle on who you wanted gone. But to go beyond just this point that Yamato was making on G2, I would go as far as saying right now, I think KC are just the better team. And the onus is actually on G2 right now to perform and, clutch up when it comes to playoffs. And obviously they've done that this year twice. Good. But now it's about summer finals and obviously Worlds, where, as far as I'm concerned, if form stays the way it is right now, like, KC are a comfortable top 8 team in the world. If they roll a good run in quarters, they could make semis. And that's probably their ceiling at this moment in time. So, yeah, I think G2, if all of these things are lining up to be true, I think it's potentially very, very disastrous. I'm in line with Mel, but I wanted to just jump in on top and say, I think KC are potentially a lot better. And the I wouldn't say minor, but the issues that they do have, I think, can be brushed up and cleaned up very, very easily, in contrast to G2's, where there's a lot more personality involved and there's a lot more to do with, like, draft identity in terms of, like, how does Broken Blade want to play? How do we integrate this into the team? What like champion? You know what I mean? There's way more moving pieces in this G2 lineup, I think, compared to KC, where it's a lot more streamlined. So that out of the way, my no key, it's the MKOI side lane. MKOI side lanes for me is my no key. Yeah, Moen's gotta go. Moen has to go. I'm kind of at that point. And I feel a bit of a ways about it because he is a very, very complex player. And it just feels like MKOI are not willing to utilize that skill set at all. It feels very reminiscent, though not to the same extremity, as when like Rogue would sign players like Shigenda. And it's like, we have this mechanically very gifted top laner who plays all of these like out there like duelists and champs that can be shifted to work into pro play, and now we're gonna make him play Ornn Cassante off cooldown forever. And it's just the exact same feeling that gets emanated for me with Moen, on top of him just underperforming and playing bad. You know? And I think you saw a lot of that this weekend where he was just outclassed. Even in games where like he should have a lot of usefulness, right? Give the Mordekaiser game. We gave him a bit of an out there pick. Mordekaiser should low-key be Thanos in this draft, by the way. Like there's not a bad target for him to ult. And it felt like he just didn't really provide any usefulness to the MKOI teamfighting situation in any objective setup that happened ever. And obviously you can point to other members of the team falling short in some of those setups and the lead-ups to those objectives. But Moen didn't, like, I think Moen was supposed to be the bus driver of that game, as far as the draft is concerned, alongside Yoyo and the Fury, and it didn't really happen. And then as for the bot lane, weirdly, I think with Super, it's just his ability to make mountains out of molehills in certain scenarios, where it's like, I think the best AD carry players in the world always know where the line is in terms of positioning and just knowing how they can squeeze damage out of team fights. And Super, his intuition for that is just bad. And so it just leads to situations where it's like, Super can just hit the front line for the entirety of this fight. Oh, but he's randomly decided to arcane shift flash in and like get this one kill that wouldn't actually change the outcome of the fight, but he wanted to get it. And so now the fight's over and they've lost the game. And it's just stupid nonsense like that off cooldown with Super a lot of the time. And as for Alvaro, I feel a little bit bad kind of lumping him in as saying like the side lanes. Because Alvaro still has very, very good games, like quite regularly. But I think that one split from like 2024, and this is why I wanted to bring it up, where he was MVP, or like young player of the year, whatever it was. Like we gave him an award basically in 2024 for being one of, if not the best supports in the LEC. That year has been carrying a lot of PR for him for a little while now, and I feel like it's finally starting to expire a bit. And this was one of those weekends where I feel like you could kind of see it in his gameplay, where I think he had one genuinely impressive game, and it was only versus Vitality, and it was the game one. It was like the Leona game where him and Yoyo were kind of running the whole map. And aside from that, a lot of the weekend was very, very lackluster at best. So yeah, I'm no-keying these guys. I think they all need to step up because, like, and to be honest, I could half chuck Yoyo in too, but I think right now MKOI is kind of being held up almost entirely by Jojo. Which, remember, guys, I'm the Jojo hater guy.
Yeah.
Very important to remember this. This team right now is moving like 3 corpses, Necromancer in Yoya, and then Jojo Pyun as like half Mr. Consistent. You can't really call someone half Mr. Consistent, but you know what you get out of Jojo as far as on the tin is concerned.
Inverse high key and no keys here, with Yamato saying there's no more big 3, it's only big 2. Jamada no key and MKOI out of the server. Yamato, weigh in. What's your no key here and close us out?
My no key. Damn, I forgot. I was thinking about a medium key. I don't know where medium key came from. I was thinking about a medium key. I thought it was low key, medium key, high key. A no key. A no key. Bro, let me give you my medium key.
Give me the medium key.
Medium key, honestly, it's not even that medium in the sense that I think the sentiment is like this for maybe everybody, but I just wanted to throw that in there. It's like in terms of what this road show was and what it means for the regular season, it's like we just got all our exciting games. What games am I looking forward to now? You know, it's a bit tough. You know, I got LEC co-streaming, you know, don't shoot me. There's some exciting storylines, right? BDS, roster changes, Subaru, is he gonna drift on the Rift for Fnatic? Like, there's some cool stories. You know? I'm selling it, but when's the next time we get KC vs G2? You know, like all the big boy matches, they got stacked. So it's like we had this meat sandwich that is spring and summer. And like we cut through the meat because we got all the sick games at the end of regular split, last split, and now we got them at the beginning. And now it's all bread, you know? And bread can be fine. Your bread is delicious, but you feel, oh, it's kind of unhealthy. I feel a bit bloated, you know, like, you know, it's not the meaty Wagyu goodness. So road shows and having a focus on the bigger games, you know, I'm loving. If we can move towards a direction in a world with that more and more that happens, I'd be very happy. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
I love that. Bread sandwich here is yeah, there it is. LEC MCOY hosting September 5th and 6th. So you've got yourself about a little over a month until we go back to MCOY land and see if they can write the experience that they gave off last time. Remember that Barcelona weekday matches where it was half full and it got better as it went on, but we'll see if MCOY can provide that level of experience that now KC has done multiple times, and now I feel biased to it. I will admit I feel biased to it based off of EWC and the way that the blue wall kind of showed up in front of the world. It was a very cool thing to see. Let us know your takes at home, how you feel about it and what you think with our high key, low key, no key. Is the big three over? Is it time to move on from Merwin? Road shows, is it too much excitement for that short amount of time? Let us know while you're there. Like and subscribe. Now, before we head on into a couple more pieces that we have here for you, including the Galaxy Brain Club of what's happening in the LPL and D plus Kia's big victory over MSI champs Hanwha Life Esports. It's time to remind you about our friends over at Hims. Now, maybe you've got some weight loss goals this summer, and you know what? It's time to actually hit them. Weight Loss by Hims is designed to support you every step of the way. And now Hims offers access to an affordable range of FDA-approved GLP-1 medicines, including the Wegovy pill and the Wegovy pen, so you can lose weight and keep it off. Now, with Wegovy at Hims, lose up to 20% of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite, eat less, and keep weight off. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever GLP-1 pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. Through Hims, everything happens online. You connect with a licensed provider who will determine if treatment is right for you, and if prescribed, your medicine is delivered right to your door. No insurance necessary, and it doesn't stop there. Hims makes hitting your goals seamless by offering access to 24/7 messaging with your care team and in-app lifestyle and nutrition support like recipes, meal plans, fitness videos, sleep content, and more. And even better, With a range of affordable GLP-1 options, Hims makes it easy to find a weight loss approach that fits your world and your wallet if eligible. You'll get a treatment plan personalized to you with unlimited dosage changes as needed. So if you're ready to hit your goals, visit hims.com/powerspike to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's Hims, HIMS.com/powerspike. Hims.com/powerspike. Weight loss by Hims isn't available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information, and restrictions, head to hims.com. Thanks to our friends over at Hims. I will go ahead and say this to the homies out there. I've used Wegovy as I was getting in shape for my wedding. It does work. The appetite satiation is true and real. It is fascinating to see how it works. So make sure to check it on out if you want to hit your weight and fitness goals. Okay. Time for the Galaxy Brain Club, as this has been just a massive week of League in just such a short amount of time. It is the week that was Galaxy Brain Club. Let's get into it. All right, let's start off over at the LPL. News flooding out of the LPL with this top lane sabbatical for Bin, with the changes that are coming on in. Flandre, potentially on the way, 90%, it is said, on the way to BLG after a suggestion by one of the players. BLG still trying to figure out what they want to do up there on the top side of the map. And maybe Flandre is the one. So it just feels kind of crazy. We got Flandre there. We got Bin there. We got the guy that filled in the win here. Like, they're going to have 3 top laners. They're like, who is it? DNS and all the pieces they have in the bot lane, or now Kiwoom with all the 80 carries that they have. They'll have 3 potential top laners on their roster. Yamato, what do you make of the news?
I think that if Flandre makes it through, I think it's good. Mr. Oscar de la Hoya, bro, like, I don't know, the Standard Talk series that they won one time against BLG 2 years ago, I don't know why they keep recruiting from that source. Like, they need to stop looking back at that series as a recruitment source for players. I'm happy that it isn't Hoya, because I think that you just need experience. It's like the talent is clearly there, and I think that Flandre, you don't have to worry when you throw him into, let's say, the World Championship or an LPL Finals. You don't have to worry. He's been there before. He's not going to be as good as Bin. He's not going to be that. But he's going to be serviceable. And I think this team is good enough to do well with serviceable. Like, they have contenders for the number 1 player in each position outside of top. And Bin was that contender. But if he's causing more issues and more friction, then, that's just life then. Like, that's, you just can't, you can't compromise on that. And I think Flandre is a good choice because he has that experience, and I think that BLG will somewhat work out. It'll be all right. It'll be all right.
I like that phrase of not being able to compromise there. Right? It is like, once you hit that impasse, eventually you got to keep moving on at some point. So, Jamada takes on Flandre sliding on in there.
Yeah, I mean, if it happens, I think it's just a net positive for both parties. I think when you look at this BLG roster, it's one of those things where always, like, historically, when you talk about roster builds, it's like someone has to take the L. And it's like, when your solo laners are Knight and Bin, and then your bot laner is Viper, who takes the L there, right? And I'm not saying that this is obviously the cause of the friction or anything like that, because they've been working pretty harmoniously for the entire year so far, as far as to attain results, right? But yeah, this MSI run, I really wonder what happened at this MSI run. Obviously, then EWC closely before that has pushed them to feel like they need to make this decision. obviously we've had all of these like leaks and breakout stories where it's just, bin ego and this, that, the other, which has brought us to this circumstance. But I think when you again look at the rosters of all time, it's very rare that there isn't one lane just kind of having to lie down and take it. And Flandre's the kind of guy now for years, right? Beyond like his stint originally as like being known as like the Camille Fiora guy, he's been the weak side king forever. And in a meta which is very, very kind of it's shifted away from being like air quotes top centric, right? A lot of this first half of the year we were talking about how top carries are in and this, that, the other. We're kind of moving away from that again. And so Flandre, I think, is the right kind of balance of being serviceable, not really requiring draft resources. He plays everything. And as far as the other elite top laners are concerned, the only guy that would really BTFO him domestically was Bin, who he's replacing. So it's like, well, now what? Like who's supposed to come into that top lane matchup and absolutely run him in a set? There isn't really anyone in the league that will do it consistently. So I think this makes sense for both of them. Obviously, it's a little bit of a stroke of fortune because Flandre was quite literally just made teamless less than 5 weeks ago. So the fact that obviously AO were having issues then brought this around. It does make me wonder how, like, in an alternative universe, like what a Breeze would have looked like on this lineup. Because I think Breeze Breeve's interesting because he's traditionally a bit more of a carry player in my head, but kind of can serve the low economy playstyle. So yeah, I think this is just the right thing for BLG to do. If Bin is genuinely the cause of like interpersonal issues, this is just going to end up with BLG, I think, long term being stronger because now it's like, okay, we just focus on playing through mid jungle and bot. We just leave Flandre on an island. We know he's going to survive basically any matchup. Oh, he needs to go 10 CS down. Oh, guess what? He went 5 CS down. Perfect. Like, that's the kind of player Flandre is. So I think it will be good.
I gotta say
though,
EWC,
Oh, you both gotta say. You both
yeah,
gotta
we
say
both
something.
gotta say.
Then you gotta say first, Mr. Daniel. Come on now.
I beat you by
Mr. Gonzales, do it, bro.
a couple milliseconds. Flandre's performance at EWC was fantastic. Like he was very, very good on that AGAL, as they were named there, squad that didn't go as far as maybe they thought. It was not his fault. He was innocent. And so if that was his last action with the squad, now moving on over to BLG, I think that's going to be very, very fun to watch. Go ahead, Yamato.
I just wanted to give a shout out to, honestly, I don't know if I should, but I don't know, the amount of stories we've gotten out of the LPO where I just trust blindly a translation because life is just more fun that way. Just trust the translation because before they announced, like the Flandre rumor came through, there was a story about how Bin stayed at Yagao's hotel. Apparently Yagao owns hotels. And then the story was that Yagao had a conversation with Bin and he convinced him to apologize. And I'm like, what the hell in the fuck is this? And what is this? Is Yagao just a godfather? He enters his hotel. He's like super busy, has a suit on. It's like, oh, give me that coffee right now. It's like, oh, what's up with the Clinton project? It's like, the Clinton project? You gotta get that done now. And then he walks in and it's, get me Bin into my office. And then he walks in, Bin sits there. It's like, what are you doing, son? You're throwing away your career. And then he pops his Red Bull and then he just smokes a cigarette. It's like, you gotta apologize, son. You gotta apologize. And then, yeah. And then he was supposedly going back to play. But it turns out that was fake. But to imagine that was true was really fun for that moment. The same way, like when we heard the story about Schumann had to travel back to Bin's hometown because he packed his bags and went home. And then I saw like this, the spin-off, a filler episode in the anime, where like he's like saw the old school and he saw like a flashback of like Bin getting bullied. That's why he's so mean to me. And then he like see all the flashbacks. Like here, this is where he ate like his favorite food or whatever. He just walked through his town and got to know Bin on another level, like the stories are just crazy. And I just, even the Flandre thing is 99% sure. I will believe it when he's signed, he's BUG and they announce him and he does that cool turnaround that they do in LPL, when that happens, then I'll believe it, because there's been some stories. So just shout out to those stories. They're entertaining.
Yeah. Thank you to LPL Twitter for making that one happen. Oh. Are we gonna do it? Yeah. Let's run it. There is a rumor going around. A certain Weibo gaming team imploded today. One starting player is definitely out, and there's a high chance 2 others will be replaced too, as they no longer want to play. This rumor by Jamada. Go ahead, Jamada.
No, seen this person before. Post rumors. It's like the group. Like I'll give one direct shout out because they were absolutely lovely and helped us with so many different things in 2023, and probably still have been helping the like LPL English like volunteer broadcast. But you, fantastic translator as always. Not the source of this particular post. But I mean, if it's the case, think about it like this, bro. Weibo, because we're talking about Weibo here. Obviously now in the Nirvana group, which I'll steal the name that you guys give the lower group in in the LCK, which is the Fries group.
Yep. Fries.
Which it kind of is the Fries group because NIP are in there and IG are in there.
Yep.
Which is like the spring playoffs played out so weird. But obviously they've started off this this set of games going 0-2, and that's a big problem because in this group you only play 6 best of 3s. So already being 0-2 is a big problem, and if they have imploded, which like frankly, given some of the personalities on this team, would not be a particularly big surprise. Then I think it's obviously better that it happens immediately, and hopefully whatever rebuild they manage to scrounge together has the capability of trying to make it back in to the top 2 of this group, because that's how the format works. You're in that lower group with only 3 other teams. You need to finish top 2 out of the 4. And that only gives you the opportunity to do the play-ins to the playoffs, in which you will play versus one of the
bottom
2
yeah,
from the Ascent group. So, yeah, I'm kind of curious about who they're going to end up shuffling if this rumor is true, mind you, because again, it's a rumor. Because yeah, there's a lot of players on this lineup with history, man. Like just for context, for those who aren't in the know, this Weibo lineup currently holds Zika, Jie, Xiaohu, Elk, and obviously Jue, who's had a breakout kind of 18-ish months or so.
The Hank. Oh, never mind. The Hank got removed. Oh, never mind. He got removed. What about Era? They were so good with Era. Oh, they kicked him.
Yeah, they've cycled.
Oh, they signed Moham. They signed Moham, the legend.
Oh yeah,
Moham.
Got Moheezy.
There's a silent narrative. There's a silent narrative that we haven't really been covering, and it's that Elk might be the dictator. You know, like these support. You know, we talk about Inspired. We talk about a couple of other players in the space. Yo, Elk might be, you know, this might be Commander Elk in the bot lane with the level of supports getting ran through.
One starting player is definitely out. Maybe they've ousted it, you know?
Well, we'll see. But yeah, I just wanted to cover that because
Weibo
are like the judge team of the LPL, and they have been for a while. So to see them, and when I mean judge, what I mean is they do black magic shit, right? Like they qualify to Worlds when they shouldn't qualify to Worlds. They make it to Worlds finals when they have no business being in Worlds finals. They are the continual upsetter of other teams' narratives on a regular basis.
Right. No more rumor talk. Let's go into fact talk. Fact.
Yes.
D plus Kia defeated Hanwha Life Esports today. Continuing the trend of the underdog, the lower standing team in the Legend group beating the higher standing team in the Legend group, with KT defeating T1 yesterday. Now it is D plus Kia in a very legit match. Like, it was legit. It wasn't perfect League of Legends. It wasn't cleanest, but it was very, very entertaining and very close between two teams that do understand how they want to play right now. I think we saw 2 games earlier with our Rise group teams like not knowing what the fuck they wanted to do and one team just being better than the other. This one, it was a back and forth, and Hanwha were on the front foot in that final game. Ultimately, great engage there by Lucid multiple times, catching out Gumayushi and then allowing the Yunara on smash to scale and eventually win the series. Just quick thoughts on that one before we get into our viewer Q&A, our premium Q&A here, Yamato.
Honestly, I think that HLE showed like some better mid-game qualities. I think in game 1, like the way they did the Nash was very decisive in the game, and I think in regards to some of the team fighting mistakes from Zeka and Kanavi, they were kind of unforgivable. I didn't feel like HLE played as good as they can, but also this is just a part of the HLE business, right? It's like HLE as a team, they plain and simple just are a team with high variance. It's like they found a very, very good streak here, and fair play to them for making it all the way through MSI. But it's a team that, in terms of shifting metas, it's like, for example, Gumayushi on his Casio didn't look the greatest, right? Like, he's been working out on the Ziggs, and the Lucian looked clean. But in terms of meta changes, this is a team that should be not super resistant. So I don't think that them slumping every now and then is something that's going to be too crazy. Zeus still looked amazing in this series, in my opinion. And I think the bigger plus for me is just D+ is looking better and better. I think that Showmaker has had such incredible form the last months. Like, he's putting up Chovy numbers, very clean team fighting, just the Showmaker that I've missed is just right there. And I think what was very apparent in this series is just the improvement of Smash and Career. Like, they just looked legit. They just looked super, super legit in this series. And dare I say, we can allow ourselves to be hopeful for D+.
Hopeful.
Dare
I
I
like
say.
that one. Jamada, what'd you see?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to give them credit for how they clawed back the game 3. I just think the identifier of, okay, not only do we need to try and blow Guma's flash, but we don't really have a good way of locking him in the Cataclysm immediately. And this is where I want to say, cool, Lucid's engage. You brought up Lucid's engage. It was actually Career. What Career identified was that when Lucid is jumping in with the Cataclysm, he needs to ult him to interrupt Guma's dash and actually lock him in the Cataclysm. And when you slow down and you look at the last, I think, 2 or 3 engages of that game, that's what they did on repeat, back to back to back. That's what actually let them kill off Gumayushi. And then that just gave space to Smash to do the Yunara thing, man, and just kind of open up. But like Yamato was saying, this was also a very good demonstration game, a case study game of the variance of HLE in terms of, it's funny when you call like HLE like a variable team, because it's like their ceiling is in fucking space and their floor is still above a majority of the team. So when we talk about their variance, their lows are still higher than a lot of teams on the planet.
Yeah.
But it just means that all of a sudden when they're playing towards that floor, they're toppleable. They can be beaten. And this was one of those games where they had a draft where it's not exactly the easiest to close out unless you have Nash. The side lane situation was not fantastic, right? And they kept on allowing Shiwu for a fair portion of that game to have too much freedom, frankly. Once like a majority of the structures were dead outside of the base. And that let DK back into the game, right? Like, Shiwu's like really bonkers ways of starting fights, whether it be that TP by the bot river, where frankly he should have died or otherwise. And that again just lent into everything going DK's way. So I just want to give credit to not just specifically Lucid, but also Career for identifying that he can use the Lulu ultimate aggressively to actually lock down Guma.
Yeah, it was a great hand series, very entertaining, back and forth. And going back to what I said earlier, this is such a fun time in League because we had such a big shift. All of a sudden, the tipping point for anything is open down on the bottom side of the map. It allowed teams to have different ideas on how they want to play, and it felt like both these squads landed on, we've got some studs at the AD carry role. Let's let them fucking play AD carries. Like, they had one turn each play a mage. It was Cassiopeia in game 1 for Guma. It was Victor in game 2 for Smash. And then they went AD carry versus AD carry. A lot of fun to watch there. And ultimately went the way of D plus Kia, continuing their great run here from Paris. Now the longest winning streak in the LCK right now. 5 wins in a row for D plus Kia as they look to have more upsets in the future. All right, y'all. That normally would do it. But however, in case that you didn't hear, LFN Premium is live right now at lastfreenation.com. It does mean that our subscribers get every one of our 16 shows ad-free with access to the private Discord, and every week we pull one subscriber topic onto the show and give you credit by name, which is what we're about to do right now. And if you're interested in it, sign up right now at lastfreenation.com. It's $9 a month for LFN Premium, $90 for the year, which works out to $7.50 a month. Pick Power Spike at sign up, and your subscription pays this show directly. There's a 7-day money back guarantee, so give it a try right now. Again, that's lastfreenation.com. As we pull our viewer question for the week from Brendan, spelled backwards, Nadnerb. Should teams with mid-subs like Cloud9 experiment putting them in the bot lane due to proficiency on mages? Since we've got this guy's specific example, Mr. Brendan, with our specific coach that may or may not be doing this, Jamada, I'll start with you. Should teams with mid-subs experiment putting them on the bottom side of the map?
Let Yamato formulate the PR answer. My stance is quite simple, and the answer is no. And it's purely because of the format of how teams with more than 5 players operate. You have to field 5 players before you know what draft you're playing. So if it was a circumstance where hey, you know what your draft is, then you get to field your players, then the answer would be yes. But that's not the world we live in. 5 players have to walk up on the stage and then do the draft. So the idea is good, but we do not currently have the format that allows that to happen. And it's kind of a shame because I think it does kill off a certain level of flexibility. But yeah, I do think that hopefully something can be done about that if more teams end up landing on more than 5-man rosters. Because we had the same conversation with CFO last year with Driver and Rest, and obviously it was Driver that ended up being the better of the 2 players in that lane anyway. But being able to lend into a player's specialist champion pool would be cool if you could draft without actually fielding your players first.
You don't think that the pool is big enough right now where it doesn't matter? Like, it does seem pretty open.
You'd have to do it early in a series with the intent of we want to run double mate.
We're gonna force it.
Yeah. Exactly. And then cool. There's a fun meta game there where let's just in this hypothetical say C9 do this, right? They run APA bot with with Loki mid. Whoever they're playing against, then the likelihood is they're going to be running a mage bot, so they can kind of half prep on the spot ideas about how they want to try and play out their next game from a draft perspective. But I think I would prefer if it was the other way around in this specific example of you draft and then you can field your players. But I think the practicality of it is too the logistics don't work for it to happen in a show setting.
That's not how League works. Yamato, what do you think?
It's crossed our mind. Definitely, it's crossed our mind. I do think that there is there is room for it. I would say. Like I think that the most obvious example is Whippo playing bot lane together with Hilly during that era. And if there's a will, there's a way, right? Like they also ran into the problem that ADCs are sometimes just better, and that was something that Whippo actively practiced in solo queue too. But if you want to force it, I think there's enough room to be able to do so. So there's definitely angles, so to speak. But that's all I can say.
Yeah, I just feel like for me on the outside looking in, you'd have to consider. I'm not worried about champ pool per se because you're signaling you're going to play them down on the bottom side of the map. I think when we used to run OGN Masters, do you remember that? It was the 10-man roster, and you could field any sort. We've talked about it before in the show. There weren't as many champs, and it was a lot more forced on where you had to go at that time because league wasn't as creative yet in terms of positions. And I think now, as you said early on, if you do it early enough, there's enough champs. But ultimately, don't you have bot laners playing mages? Can't you have the mid laners play 80 carries if necessary? And don't mid laners have to then consider, how do I play this mage that normally plays in a lane by itself with XP breakpoints by itself with pressure usually from one person, unless the jungler comes, with now a support and an enemy support that could also set that up? I feel like it's just a lot to consider that people just wouldn't spend time doing it. That is my thought process there. So, Brendan, 3 different takes here by the 3 of us. You can let us know how you feel about it in that exclusive Discord channel that you're part of over at Last Free Nation due to your LFN premium subscription. If you want active responses to your burning questions to some of our takes, subscribe now for LFM Premium at lastfreenation.com. All right, everyone. That does it for this episode of Power Spike. Again, normalcy is starting to return. We will have the next episode on Monday at 10 a.m. CEST. That's Monday, 10 a.m. CEST, 6 p.m. here in Korea, as we're going to try to move forward with Mondays as our show day. It'll be right after all the matches are done. All the ideas flowing fresh off our minds. Thank you so much for hanging in there with us as we continue to move closer and closer to playoffs, new champions for each regions and worlds. We'll see you next week for more Power Spike action. Bye-bye.